First of all, I want to congratulate all of you for being here. You are so important, and don't ever let anybody tell you anything else. You got your marching orders this weekend, haven't you? You know what to go home and work on, and I'm going to give you one more, so get ready. I've also enjoyed the speakers immensely. So there's two ways to have a constitutional amendment, as Professor Woodruff has told you. The first way is the way it's always been done, that Congress passes that, and then it goes out to the states. The second way, which has never happened, is for the states to ask Congress and for them to apply to Congress and then for them to call a convention. But you know what? I think all those people that are in favor, and Phyllis always called it a constitutional convention. Why? Because people understand what that is. They know that's where our first Constitution came from. In Article 5, it calls it a convention for proposing amendments. It doesn't call it a convention of states, as Professor Woodruff has said. So what about the people that are proposing these things? Most of them are Republicans. Most of them are Republican legislators. Most of them are your friends, and many of them are very conservative. So you need to open up your mind and realize that if we're going to stop this, we've got to do something that's very hard for us. And that is the biblical injunction by Jesus Christ to love our enemies. The ones that have been most effective in defeating Article 5 constitutional conventions in the last few years in rescissions are the Democrats. Yes, don't gasp. It is the Democrats. Some of the best information on this comes from Common Core. Now, let me just tell you about what's happening in Congress right now. But first, all the people that are in favor of having this convention, which could completely destroy our Constitution, I think they all took Common Core. Because every time we have a new way of counting, we have to get to 34, but they've never been able to get to 34. I've worked with Phyllis on this issue since the 1980s, and we got up to 32, and then we started rescinding in many states. It went way down, almost 16 states. And now they've built it up. We're not sure exactly how many they have, maybe 27, maybe more, but because they can never get there, they've started doing something called aggregation. That means they don't just need all of the resolutions to ask for a balanced budget amendment or for a convention of states or for any other issue, for term limits or anything else. They've just started saying we can use plenary ones, which means a general convention. So there's a lot of theories about doing it, but one of the most interesting theories, which they all do, is they start in 1789 and say, we're going to count the convention call in New York in 1789. And then they move along to mostly to the Civil War, and they're counting those. I mean, I thought that got resolved, the Civil War, as I remember. And then they go on to the 1900s where they're using child labor laws and polygamy amendments. They've used the ones that was that became the 17th Amendment. I thought that became part of the Constitution. And now then they've used balanced budget amendments and all kinds of other things, and they say, we have all the convention calls we need. Congress needs to do this. Oh, really? You told us this was supposed to be limited. And now you've taken every soup and nut in the whole place and put it together, and we're going to have a convention. That's because they took Common Core and they count a new way every time. Now, what's going to happen? We are in serious trouble. Before, this has all been taking place in the states. Now they have two federal bills in Congress. One is H.C.R. 101, and one is H.R. 8419. And what is the purpose of those? They are asking for Congress to appoint the archivist to count all the convention calls that have come in, and then when the archivist, not Congress, as Article 5 demands, once they've decided that, then when the archivist has those put together, they have 180 days to call a convention. This could happen next year. Right next year. We're on the brink of a catastrophe to destroy our Constitution. I want you to understand that we could lose everything if they do this. Now, who's doing it? It's the Republicans. I'm very concerned, only on one side of my life, that the Republicans might take over all these states and Congress, because what's going to happen? They support overwhelmingly, more so than the Democrats, a constitutional convention. Now, in Nevada, when we rescinded, we were part of the states that rescinded. I got the most liberal Democrat in the state to author the bill. He didn't even know I got him to do it. I went in later and told him, and he was astonished. And so he was so thrilled that he and I were working together, that he put me up on the dais with him, and everybody took our pictures for Twitter, because this was what happened. But you have to learn to work with the Democrats if we're going to win on this bill. I'm not teasing you. I'm not kidding you. If it weren't for them, we would have lost. Let me just go down a list of states right now that have rescinded in the last few years. Now, there's only 2 Republican states. One of those is Idaho, which was in 2000, and one was Montana in 2007. The other states, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Nevada, Colorado, New Jersey, Illinois, all Democrat states. Why don't they want a convention? Because they're afraid of you. They think you might do something that would turn over their socialist agenda. They're as afraid of you as we are of them. I work with them all the time, so I really have come clear on this issue to understand that they are fearful. They were fearful of what would happen maybe with Roe versus Wade, but they're fearful of all the other things we might do. What's the first thing that's going to happen if we have an Article 5 convention? They're going to take away our right to keep and bear arms. You can bet on that. But they have their whole agenda. It's not an unplanned convention. It's a limitless convention, which they have their whole agenda ready to go. Do you control your city council, your county commission, your state legislature? Would you like to send any of those people to a constitutional convention? Do they look like George Washington or James Madison? They don't even think like them. It's scary to consider sending any of my state legislators, which I have worked with for decades, to an Article 5 convention. We have to be very concerned. So, your agenda is to do what? If you're going to save the Constitution, in your state, most of the Republican states are the ones that have passed this. Now, how many states? Let me tell you what the new bill says. They are going to count. They've got a new way of counting. I mean, I'm just amazed. I'm really old-fashioned about math, but they are really going after new ways of counting. Their new way to count is that they are going to count all states that have rescinded their applications. They're going to put them in this pile, and then they're going to say all the states that haven't rescinded their applications, which are, I just told you, 10 states had rescinded them. One state, Hawaii, never passed them. How many does that add up to in real math? 39. They have to have 34 to get a convention. We are on the brink of a catastrophe, as I told you, because they could, if the Republicans in Congress pass this, then we could have a convention called within 180 days. Now, what do you need to do? First of all, you need to educate yourself on this issue. And now that I've done this speech, I have to write a new article about this because I was putting it all together on the way here. I'm fighting a state E.R.A. in Nevada, and I haven't been working on this in the last little while. So you need to educate yourself. You can go to eagleforum.org under topics, under the Constitution. Phyllis's articles are there. Some of my articles are there. Woody's should be there too. And you can educate yourself on this. Then you need to get your Republican groups, like we did in Nevada, to oppose an Article 5, because it's the Republicans that are the problem. In Nevada, we did a remarkable thing. I know it was the blessings of God. I was absolutely astonished. We rescinded in Nevada unanimously with every Democrat and every Republican in the Senate and in the Assembly voting to rescind. I know that was the hand of God. The only way we can work on any of these is if we pray every day and He directs our efforts. So you need to work in your state legislature, whatever your circumstances are, of getting someone to introduce a bill to rescind all of yours, unless you're in one of the rescinded states. All your previous Article 5 constitutional convention calls. Why? Because they may use a polygamy call or a call from the Civil War. You need to do that. The second thing you need to do is you need to make friends with the Democrats so that you can make sure you can work together on this issue in the legislature. You need to educate your congressman because it's going to be coming up in Congress. Not just the Republicans that you have as friends, but you need to talk to those. What are they? Possibly our enemies. You need to have a relationship with them and show them that we can agree on this issue. It'll help you in the future in communicating with them. So you have your marching orders, your local organizations, your state legislature, and your congressmen, not just Republicans, but all of our legislators, all Republicans and Democrats. Now let me tell you, we've heard a lot about the Constitution and all our founding fathers did for us. I have 17 grandchildren. That's why I'm here, because they mean everything to me and the future. We have not only to love our enemies, but we have to do as our founding fathers did in order to win this battle. And I've been in many that are impossible, and we still can win if it's impossible with God's help. We have to pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, and God will bless our efforts, and we will be victorious.